Better late than never. Maggie didn't know if she was going to make it in more than one meaning of the term. The taxi driver was doing his best to weave in and out of the ever-thickening traffic, but Megs, as she preferred to be known, wasn't feeling hopeful. It wasn't just the prospect of reaching Singapore's Changi airport in time to catch her scheduled Garuda flight back to Surabaya, Indonesia, that she was worried about, but whether or not she was going to be able to make it out of the taxi before she vomited. Because vomit she would. She knew that. It was a given, but if she could just make it from the confines of the icily cold, air-freshened, immaculately clean car being driven with admirable skill and pace by the fresh-faced Singaporean university student obviously doing a bit of moonlighting, she would be ever so grateful. Thank you very much. She tried to sit back in her seat and focus her mind on something, anything, to take her mind off the rising bile in her stomach. In doing so, Megs fixed her gaze on a point just in front of the car's bonnet and allowed herself to gingerly close her eyes. She was back on the starting line. It was only 8 hours ago, but it already seemed like it belonged to a different time, a different epoch even. The nerves had been jangling a bit, but that was only to be expected. After all, 26 miles was a long way, and making her marathon debut at the age of 41 in the humidity of Singapore was probably not one of her wisest decisions, but hey, at last, it was another item ticked off her bucket list. Early December, and the sights on Orchard Road, the main shopping thoroughfare in downtown Singapore, were something to behold. As far as the eye could see, the place was lit up with Christmas decorations and gleaming baubles as some 10,000 runners congregated at 4 a.m. for the start of what was sure to be a grueling ordeal. Despite her nerves, Megs couldn't help but get caught up in the excitement and bonhomie of the occasion. Both experienced veterans and total novices like herself were gathered in the holding pens, all wishing each other luck and all wondering whether or not they had got their training programs right and at what point, not if they would hit the wall, the dreaded moment or patch when the body becomes remote from the brain and starts to play weird mind games with the soul. Why was she doing this? She asked herself for the millionth time. What on earth possessed her to want to put herself through what she was sure would be an inordinate and unnecessary amount of pain, discomfort and physical as well as mental torture? It was a question that she was sure would scream to her in agonizing repetition over the forthcoming few hours. If she had been able to answer her question regarding her motives as she plodded agonizingly yet determinedly round the course that morning, she would have concluded that she was doing it because it was about time. The fact was she had been thinking about, talking about, considering and putting off running a marathon for at least 2 decades and had always kidded herself that she was too busy to do the training. Too tied up with other things, too immersed in her work, or her relationships, or the myriad of other things she had going on in her life at any one time. The truth was, she knew, that she was just a master of procrastination and of putting things off incessantly, and she had ultimately ended up frustrating herself at least as much as she did other people. The first hour of the marathon had gone reasonably well. Megs found herself more or less on pace at a steady 9 kilometers per hour, and having worked out her refreshment and stretching schedule, she was feeling more relaxed than she had at the start and was beginning to get into the zone. She should have done this earlier, she reasoned as she took the first of her scheduled water breaks. But then that was her all over, wasn't it? She had always been what her mother had euphemistically termed a late bloomer. It was the same with her getting a degree and finishing her education, she recalled as she set off running again at the beginning of the 10th kilometer, upon leaving school at the age of 18 back in England more than half a lifetime ago. Megs had seen her friends head off in different directions. While some had gone straight into employment and others had spent some time traveling and finding themselves, Megs had planned to go to university and then ultimately train to become an elementary school teacher. However, she hadn't, and to this day, she was not sure why. The only reason she could come up with that made any sense whatsoever was that she was just too lazy and disorganized to get herself into gear and sort out her application. I will do it, Mum. Really I will, she recalled the incessant conversations she had had with her ever-patient and cajoling mother. Just give me a chance to sort things out first, her mother had just.
Gliding to a smile, it's been 5 years since my diagnosis. When the doctor said Parkinson's disease, I thought I heard her wrong. I laughed and told her that I was only 55. Her face fell and she said, yes, I know, staring out at the wintry wonderland over my box of pills, my thickened coffee, and my cane. The glass pane of the floor-to-ceiling windows feels like a cage. An impenetrable fortress of glass that shields me from the crisp air and the soft snowflakes. My hands shake. They call it a pill-rolling tremor. My brain wants to jump up and pour another coffee, yet my body produces a defiant refusal, like a sentry-denying passage. What an odd thing it has been, to watch my body turn against itself, pulling me into the nearest chair or bed and never letting me leave. With a painful swallow, my pills are taken, though I can't say they do any good. I do my exercises every day, though I can't say they do anything either. But I still do them, if not for the insanity it helps fend off by doing something other than watch the world pass me by. It takes me half an hour, but I wiggle my way to the door and slide it open. That's how I move now. I wiggle and writhe. It's exhausting. The rush of morning air snaps on my cheeks, drying my eyes. A wide smile casts across my face, remembering how life used to be. I used to ice skate. No back flips or triple axels. Just soft and easy gliding across the ice. I close my eyes to the slicing of the ice as the blade cuts a line in a figure eight. The easy bend of my knees and the arched back that feels like a playground from childhood. My fingers ache from the cold and my cheeks flush crimson. I am free. A knock on the door. Oh yes, my neighbor Megan. She is a physical therapist and insists on helping me when she is done with work. It is yet another thing to do that moves my body, only to have it recoil like a rubber band after she's finished. It's a beautiful day, isn't it? She says. Her long chestnut hair bounces with the energy of her voice. Oh, the freedom of a body unrestrained. What I wouldn't give to feel that again. I'm grouchy, like I always am. My face has a hard time showing emotion nowadays. My mouth rarely smiles, so I'm forced to reflect on happiness quietly, in my mind. Emily, what are you doing at the door? It's freezing out there, she says. I used to skate. Oh. You did? The surprise in everyone's voice that you used to be human and move like one never ceases to irritate me. I wasn't great, but I loved it. I used to go to. My voice catches, like a sweater snagging on a tree branch. You would go where? My hand up to her face, I say. I wasn't finished. Her lips tighten and she nods. I continue. I would go to the frozen lake and glide in circles. It was like a dream. That's lovely. She smiles. We should shut the door. As she reaches across me, my arm shakes and jerks and eventually lands on her arm. No, I tell her. I want to feel the air and watch the snowflakes fall. Okay, then. Her arm drops to her side. You don't have to do this for me. I can exercise myself. It's hard to stretch yourself. Besides, I enjoy coming to see you, she says. I let out a deep belly laugh. It comes from the depths of me, both shocking and sad that willful company is laughable. Is that so hard to believe, in a word? Yes. I fumble my way to the chair to rest my rigid legs. I'm a surly curmudgeon who can't hardly manage a smile. No, you are a kind human being who made me brownies when I first moved to the neighborhood and babysat my son when I had to work late. I didn't do all that, I assure you. You did, she says. Well, pretty soon I'll need to move to a retirement home. Just getting my pants on in the morning, I break into a cold sweat. Come on, let's stretch those hips. There is a wispy cobweb fluttering from the ceiling. Hanging on by one end, it wafts in the movement of the heater vent. I imagine a surfer is on there, riding the waves into a sandy beach. I haven't noticed it until now. Not until I was lying on my back on the kitchen floor. Unable to move for the past hour. I worked on rolling off the linoleum and after a great expenditure of energy, I now rest on the carpet. Much more manageable. Oh, goodness. Megan says when she bursts in the front door, don't go calling the morgue. I just fell. Is anything hurt? She begins inspecting me. No. Just my pride. Well, come on. She wraps her dainty little arms around me and lifts me to a chair. How did you do that? I lift people all day. she says flippantly. No exercise. Not today. I wave my hand in the air with finality. Okay. But Emily, is it time to discuss getting you more help? My face flushes hot. Traitor. Just like everyone else. Roll grandma into a corner and tilt her so she can watch the birds from the window. You can leave now, I know you don't want to hear it, but what if you break a leg in the